Hi, I'm Susan Kennard, and you've found the Spiritual Awakener podcast. This is a podcast where I get to interview really interesting people, really cool people that have amazing stories to tell of how they had their turning points in their life or their spiritual awakenings. I'm sure you've had a spiritual awakening or many turning points, and you look back on them and you feel, my goodness, now I understand why that happened. On episode 1 of The Spiritual Awakener, you can hear my story of my awakening and how I got woken up in the night. So, looking forward to this episode. I have with me today a dear, dear friend, really. She's become a really dear friend of mine. She's part of my Soul's Mission membership. And the first day that I ever spoke to her, which was in a hotel in San Diego, and I spoke to her, and I knew that this lady would really bring something incredible to the world. And that was without knowing anything about her, just the first conversation. I'm going to let her tell you her story, but I just want you to listen really carefully to the undertones of what she's going to bring forward for you, because no matter what happens in your life, no matter what adversity you go through, no matter how many times you think, oh my goodness, what is this all about? It all is there for a really important reason, and that is to live your true mission. So, welcome, Lansing, to the podcast. Finally, you're here. It's great to have you. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on.
Thank you, Susan, for having me. I know it's been a while. You've talked about this for, I think, over a year.
Yeah,
So I'm really
yeah,
happy to
I think
finally
it
be
is over
here.
a year. Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
we've known each other for, is it a good 2.5 years now, is it?
Yeah, I would think so. About 2.5 years. It
Yeah,
was just like March 2020.
it was March 2020. Can you believe that? March
Yeah.
2020. And that time, and we were actually, recording this on the 5th of September 22. And in March 2020, the world went into an incredible experience of awakening. And so did you.
Yeah, that's right.
So, yeah. So, tell us about you, Lansing. Tell everyone about what your true turning point was in your life and your spiritual awakening.
Well, thank you. It started actually in 2018, where in October 2018, I noticed that I was bleeding and I didn't know why. And so I went to my doctor and then started going to, undergoing all these tests and, found out that I had cancer. And I was 53 years old and really healthy and always exercised, had a great diet, had a spiritual practice. So I couldn't understand why that was happening to me. I went in complete shock. And so I had surgery and it was taken out. So that was fortunate. And I felt like, okay, well, that was over with. It was just me trying to expiate a little karma here in my life.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, and so then, I went on
Because you were pretty
with,
spiritual, weren't you? I mean, just to, sorry to stop you, but
yeah,
you were pretty
no,
spiritual. So you were pretty, aware, you looked after your body, as you said, you exercised and what you put in your body, you were conscious of
mhm.
and so on. And so that would have been a real surprise for you.
Yeah, it was a real shock. I just remember when I heard, I went completely numb, and I really just couldn't believe it. And so I went into a state of fear, really, and
Mm.
just started like being very, very careful about what I ate after that. And to
Mm.
a point where I wasn't much fun to be around. And but then I gradually, started to feel confident and trust my body again. And then 2 years later, I started bleeding again. And I was like, oh my gosh, well, what is this? I just thought, well, maybe I just have a cyst. And so I went to the doctor again, and they didn't take any chances, and they just went right in and did a full hysterectomy. And turned out I had a very aggressive form of cancer. And so at this point, I was like, what is going on? What is going on? I really didn't understand. And, my sister sent me one of your meditations, Susan. And I really connected with you and thought, well, maybe, I should reach out to Susan, because I felt like there was something deeper going on in my life.
Yeah.
Because I could not understand why this would be happening to me. And so that really,
and especially again, like once you might think, well, actually I've healed that, so I've moved on from it. But actually twice, and we will talk about why that happens in a moment, but twice, and that's like, well, actually you have to listen, right? And that's what you did.
It was definitely my body screaming at me for some reason. I didn't know. And it's interesting because getting cancer was my worst fear in life, because both my parents died of cancer in their early 70s. And so I was very fearful of cancer. In fact, I didn't even want to talk about cancer because it was such a scary topic for me. And so to get it again,
which actually is for most people, and this is why this is such an important episode to record with you, because actually it is for most people. When we talk about the C word, most people call it, here in the UK, definitely the C word. When we talk about cancer, people think, well, it's a death sentence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And I had, even before getting cancer, I had promised myself, I am never going to do chemo. I am never going to do radiation, because I could see how, with both my parents, it didn't really, extend their life at all. In fact, if anything, it just kind of destroyed the quality of their life. And so I thought, oh, I'm going to go to Mexico and I'm going to go, somewhere where they don't do that. And I had all this planned. It was as if I already knew that I was going to get this or something. It was very strange. But then I was so grateful.
You thought about this before. You thought, well, that's what I'll do if this happens. I'll just go to another country and I won't be part of the American system. And, because just tell everybody where you are, just whereabouts.
I'm in Tacoma, Washington State.
Yeah. So presumably in that state, then the medical journey would have been definitely that way. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. In fact, In fact, after I had the endometrial cancer, they wanted to do radiation. And they said, just to be safe, we want just to do a small amount of radiation so that we can make sure that it doesn't come back. It will reduce, the possibility from like a 25% chance of coming back down to like maybe, 10%. So that's really good. And we're only going to give you a little bit. And I was just like,
did that happen a little bit later though? So if we think about the journey of you kind of awakening, really, if we think about that, Lansing, it was like, because I remember when I spoke to you, you'd sort of like, that's when you'd found out, like, well, it's come back now and I really need to do something.
Yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself, because so after I had the surgery, I called you, Susan. And
it was after you'd had that surgery, and then you were like, well, I know what to do.
And then and you invited me onto your Body Soul Universe course. That was an 8-week course or something. I think it was 8 weeks.
6 to 8 weeks or 12 weeks. I can't remember.
Yeah. was an
Yeah.
amazing course. Amazing. I love that course. And there is like, and I was able to get one-on-one sessions with you, and we could,
Part
and
of the course was that, wasn't it?
mm-hmm,
Because you were
mm-hmm,
asking for, I know you were asking for one-on-one sessions, and I literally was just about to launch, we were just about to run this program that was a long program, an intense program, and part of what I'd done was put private sessions in with it. So I said, look, this feels much more a great package
mm-hmm.
for you rather than doing one-to-one sessions just. So yeah,
Yeah, it was perfect. It was really
perfectly
perfect
aligned.
because was definitely,
Mm,
and it was definitely for me an understanding of that my body, you know, was sending me messages. It was a wake-up
yeah,
call.
yeah,
That it was time for me to remember who I was as a human, I mean, a being of light, having a human experience,
yeah,
you know, in this lifetime.
yeah,
And not, I was not paying attention, even though I was very busy doing my life, like
mm,
my work life and as practicing as a Buddhist. And, but there was a part of me that wasn't awake, a big part
mm,
of me that wasn't awake. And this message that came in form of cancer in my body was a huge
mm,
wake up call that, okay, Lansing, you know, you're not on the right path. We need to do a
yeah,
shift. And in order to get your attention, maybe they've tried to get my attention with, you know, in other ways along my life, but it
yeah,
wasn't enough to wake me up. And I needed this in order for me to
yeah,
stop dead in my tracks and say, what's going on? Because it's like
yeah,
our bodies are like an antenna, you know, that's connected to source. And I wasn't getting I wasn't getting the messages, the subtle ones, you know, I wasn't getting those. So I had to get like some really, like the first cancer was like wasn't enough, right? I had to get
yeah,
it
yeah.
again. And so that
And
was
you
the
know
one that was
what's
like,
a really good point about secondary cancer is that if we think of it, and I say this with no judgment to anybody who's listening to this, and just with a completely open heart, as Lansing does, and we just both want to say that neither of us are, just a disclaimer here, that neither of us are medical doctors, and so therefore, if you have a symptom in your body, then it's really important that you do seek medical advice. But what I do know from the training that I've done as a mental health practitioner, which is essentially neuropsychology, looking at the metaphysical causes of disease, what I do know is that when we have secondary cancer, it's because we, as Lansing just said, we did not heal the causal reason of why our body was showing us the message in the first place. And that is said with complete love and an open heart to whoever's listening to this, and wherever you are in your life with your situation, with your physical health, your emotional health, whatever it is. But that is how it is. And so Lansing can carry on that beautiful
yeah,
story.
yeah. And well, the healing that came with the Body Soul Universe class was so deep. And
Mm,
it took me back actually to my childhood and a
yeah,
lot of the childhood trauma that I
yeah,
endured, you know, that I had long forgotten about. You know, it's just like stuff you
yeah,
don't want to think about. And you know, the things that I saw, my mom was abused by my stepfather, and the things that I saw as a small child were really frightening. And and to see my mom in that situation and not be able to do anything about it was very traumatic for me. And
mm,
you know, and I had just probably pushed all those, not probably, I had pushed all those emotions down deep inside, you know, my gut, and my closed my heart. And
and your
yeah,
identity as a woman, if you
and
think
my, yeah,
about, we found that, didn't we? We found that one of the major pieces was, as a little girl, you lost your identity as a woman. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like that's a woman's being abused in that sense. I'm a little girl, I'm watching this. Who am I? You know, what is it safe to be a woman, right? And
Exactly.
that was what came up really. I remember, you know, in some of the sessions, is that what part of you actually felt it was unsafe to be a woman.
Yeah,
And so,
exactly.
interestingly, you know, that your soul talked to your body, and your body gave you that message, that it was in your, you know, your feminine part of your body, you know, the uterus, the, you know, that part of you, very much, you know, the womb, the mother. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in fact,
Mm.
as a child, I stopped myself from having my menstrual cycle. I didn't get it until I was 16 and away from
Yeah.
my family. I went to boarding school. It's probably the
Incredible.
best. Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah,
Mm.
and I didn't
Yeah.
even develop breast even until I was
Yeah.
away from that situation.
Yeah. So
So
you literally
yeah,
were transforming your whole physicality to fit in with, and this is a really important point. So your whole physical being was holding this message, and until you felt safe, you couldn't even be a woman, couldn't even grow as a woman, which is just
no,
incredible, isn't it?
yeah,
Mm.
it is amazing. Our
Yeah.
bodies are really amazing, is what I've been learning,
Mm.
and to really
Yeah.
trust the
Mm.
messages that we get in our body and to understand them, to listen to them is so important. Even the subtle ones, so you don't have to get a deeper message like me. It's
Yeah,
important.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, you know, we journeyed together. We journeyed on the body soul universe, and lots of really incredible healing events happened for you. And what happened after that?
Well, do you want me to tell a story about the radiation? I think
Yeah, I think
that's
that's a really, you know, really important point. Mm.
yeah. So, like I said earlier, the doctors thought it might be a good idea to have radiation in that part, the very feminine part,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
just to be sure that that the cancer didn't come back. And
Mm.
I even went in and got measured. And as
You
they were
did.
measuring me, I started to shake and I started to cry. And in fact, it was weird because the doctor was starting to measure me, and then he's like, "Oh, I need to go ask the surgeon a question. I'll be back." So I sat there in the room for a while, and all I could hear was, "You need to love your cells, not kill your cells. You need to love your cells." And then, so when the doctor came back, I said to her, "You know what? I've changed my mind. I don't want to do this." And she's like, she looked at me like shocked. She said, "It's only a little bit." And I'm like, "No, I've decided I'm not going to do this." Yeah. And so she said, she tried to talk me into it. She tried to give me the statistics again and the scare tactics. And I was like, "No, I, I'm not going to do it." And so I left the hospital like shaking, and she even called me when I got home, and again,
I
tried to
remember.
bring, yeah. And I was like, "Susan, what do I do?" And so,
And I wouldn't tell you what to do,
no,
because
no,
that's
she
that's
never,
a I would
yeah,
never tell anyone what to do.
no,
So
it's
I
your
just listened to
decision.
you, and mm,
Yeah, yeah, no, it was
yeah.
definitely my decision. And I felt confident that, when I started doing the meditations where you connect to
Mm,
your earth star and then connect to your soul star and then bring
yeah.
that light into your body, and I could feel that light just lighting up
Mm,
every cell in my body. And I
yeah.
knew that that was so much better for me
Yeah.
at that point in my life. And I had complete confidence.
I think I think one of the key things, and I've written a note down here because I tend to do that for the show
Mhm.
notes, and you, I remember in the program that I would have spoken about a lot, that in the media and so on, we're told we have to fight something, we have to battle it. I mean, we've had a big, whole thing for 2 years about fighting, battling everything. And I can't say the word because of the algorithms with YouTube and so on. But unless you've been in a coma for 2 years, you know what I'm talking about, And so, so, you know, when we battle something, we get more fight. When we love something, we just bring that light, as Lansing said, and that healing in. And so to love yourselves is the way to go, and not to kill yourselves, and to, because essentially as you're killing yourselves, you're killing yourself. So this
Exactly.
was a really key thing. And I think it's a real switch, a switch in our consciousness and in our perception, isn't it, Lansing? Because we might have been brought up that we have to, there's obviously germ theory, and we have to kill something, we have to eradicate something. But of course, when we understand who we are, and we understand that we are our own healer, and that we are connected to everything, we are source energy connected to everything, the moon, the stars, the Mother Earth, everything. We have that natural ability to listen to what our soul is trying to tell us through our body, but we also have that ability, with help sometimes, but to heal ourselves as we heal ourselves. And so I think that was a really, really key point that you were saying there, was that, you were in that hospital and you heard through your own inner guidance, actually, you need to love yourselves, which
Hmm.
I just think is beautiful. Yeah.
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 And I remember that day when you said, I've actually decided not to do that. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I was very pleased with you, because I knew that you'd
Yeah.
made that decision from your own knowing, your inner knowing, rather than a doctor telling you what to do or anyone telling you what to do. It had to
Hmm.
come from you. Yeah.
Yeah. And the key was to get over the fear, because there's just so
Yeah.
much fear connected to illness in our bodies. And so I think the changing point for me was to have total trust again in my body. That is, my body is always working for me. It's not letting
Yeah.
me down. It's a beautiful, you know, uh, like I said, antenna to source energy, and constantly sending me messages of what it is that I need, you know, for my
Yeah.
happiness from
Yeah.
from a state of love, you know.
Yeah.
And so this whole journey has been about coming back to loving myself more and more, you know,
Yeah.
loving who I am and trusting.
And, some people might say, well, it's easy to say, love yourself, right? But what would you say to people that perhaps were going on that journey of listening to what you're saying, listening to what we're saying together about how we can heal? But they're like, well, how did you do it? What was it that allowed you to heal your body?
Mm. Yeah, it was I think for me it was working on definitely working on my childhood traumas, really
Yeah. You
working
think that was the
deeply.
key? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was a big part of it, because a lot of what I went through in my childhood created the person that I was, which was very fearful, you know. Um, and so once I could get over being fearful and worried about what was going to happen to me in the
Mm,
future, then I could
mm,
live fully in the present, and
yeah.
and just love each moment, and and trust. I think that trust that I'm being taken care of, that I'm never alone too. That was another huge awakening for me, is knowing that I'm never alone, that I always have
Yeah.
my guides with me, you know, I'm looked after. And when I look back, you know, even in my childhood and those early memories, I think, yeah, they were always there. My guides were always with me, always taking care of me. And I remember those times. And so it's like putting those puzzle pieces together to
Yeah.
think, yeah, you know, they've always been there for me, you know,
Yeah.
and I
And
had just
that's a
blocked them
really,
off.
yeah. And that's a really great thing for people to hear now, is that even if you feel alone at this moment, you know, even if you feel that, you know, you found this episode, this podcast, and you perhaps haven't found it before, and the title drew you to listen to it, and you feel on your own, you need to know, as Lansing said, that, you know, we came here knowing that we were not doing it on our own. You know, we came here knowing that we have incredible um, spirit teams, let's call them, you know, to help us. And we're going to go on to talk about the angelic realm as well shortly. But, you know, we have the angels, we have the guides, we have our true higher self within us that is constantly with us, talking to us, helping us, giving us insight. And we, as Lansing said, we shut that down. And we shut that down through fear. So once we start to release those parts of us that have felt fear, or we talk about quite a lot, don't we, Lansing, disconnect, you know, our feelings of
Mm-hmm.
disconnect to source. Once we start to release those, even just a little bit, there starts to become a door that opens where we can hear just a little bit more of what might be right for us, rather than
Mm-hmm.
being I was going to use the word indoctrinated, but it's not really that. It's sort of going down a journey of what we think we should do, rather than what we know is truly right for us individually. Because we all have a
Yeah.
different mission, we all have a different journey here, you know, and so we all have different things that we need to experience. And so what you need to experience might be different to me. And if you're listening to this, what you need to experience will be different to someone else.
Yeah, I think it's like
Yeah.
learning to follow your heart instead of your mind. You know, the mind
Mm,
is the ego and the heart is I've been hearing our fifth dimensional consciousness now is our heart, you know, it's like the all
yeah,
knowing. And so to be able to listen to the heart again, you know, it takes courage. It takes
it
courage.
does. Because there's the old fashioned way of perhaps our mother, our father, our ancestors, you know, where we were told that, you know, the white coat worker, you know, the man in the white coat was God essentially, and told you everything and they can fix you. And now I feel like we are in this realm of understanding that we actually have our own inner wisdom and our own knowledge. And that knowledge is so much more powerful than anyone telling you what their knowledge is, you know, so
Mhm.
coming to that. So, Lansing, so I know that a little bit later on we created the Soul Family and the Soul's Mission membership, and you've been with me for quite a long time now, which was one of the founding ones, one of the founding members to be part of that. And it's an ongoing journey, isn't it, Lansing? It's not a journey that stops. It's an ongoing
No,
journey for us all.
mm-mm. Like the peeling of an onion, isn't it? It's like
Mm,
layer after layer of, you know, healing. And, you know, every day brings a new challenge and, you know, things come up
mhm.
in our life. And yeah, it's been wonderful to be part of the soul family, just to have that support, because certain things you know, you can't talk to, you know, everybody about. They lock you,
Exactly. You know,
they
these
lock you up.
journeys, yeah, these journeys, they will. Not nowadays. I think we're okay
No,
nowadays, but yeah, perhaps in those times before.
in the old days.
But yeah, in the old days. But our lifetimes before, we were perhaps ducked for it, or burnt at the stake, or whatever it might be. But yeah, definitely being part of a community. So if you're listening to this and you feel that you don't have that, and you would like to be part of a community, you can join our Souls Mission membership, which you can find on my website, which is susankennard.co.uk, or if you're in America, co.uk.
Hmm.
So Lansing, so you're completely free of anything within your body now, because what I want to talk to people about is that you carried on seeing the medical professionals, and I think that's really key to say that you carried on seeing them and you carried on having your checks. And so how long ago was it when you got the complete all clear?
I think it was 2 or 3 months ago. I went to the doctor
Mm,
for the checkup, and she actually said to me that I don't need to come back. That I've passed the time that was necessary to come in for the every 6 month check. It was every 3 months and every 6 months. And
mm.
so she said that I don't need to come back anymore. So that was really
Yeah.
great news. Yeah.
I mean, just incredible news. And I remember you sharing it. It was like, wow, just
Hmm.
amazing. And that part of being the community was you were able to like share with the whole community, like this is my news, like it's so
Hmm.
exciting. And because as much as we know within our heart and soul that we're healed, actually hearing it from that medical professional who actually was the one that said, well, because I remember you saying could come back if you don't have this radiation and so on, yeah? Because they're
Right. Hmm.
looking at the statistics of what somebody else would have, and that would happen to them. For you to actually trust yourself, firstly, but secondly, go along and hear that from the doctor is, I don't know, it just feels like it's signed, sealed, and delivered, then, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah. I listened this time. I listened to the message
Yeah,
in my body. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So then, what happens when you have these incredible spiritual awakenings, let's call them, it's always about your mission. So, which I said to you on the first telephone conversation when I
Yeah.
ever met you in San Diego. I happened to be out in San Diego, didn't I, speaking at an event, and I
That's
took the
right.
call in the hotel room. I remember it clearly. And I remember saying to you, you know what? You're going to go on and you're going to help so many people. And I'd never met you. So I'm glad to say I was right. Even though I didn't know what your journey was going to be, I knew inherently it was right. And that's what you do. So, Lansing, what was the next step after that? Obviously, evolving into being somebody of incredible service now. So, the first step was your blog.
Yeah.
Tell us
So
about your
I
blog.
so I decided that I would share my journey by writing a blog, and it's called whenmybodytalks.com. And I share my spiritual journey of having cancer and my awakening process. So I started that, I believe, in September 2020. So
Mm. It was
yeah,
quite quick
just like,
after, wasn't it?
yeah, yeah.
It was very fast after, and I think that's the key thing, is that when something's seeded within you, and you're a natural writer, of course, but once something's seeded within you, you have to give it to the world, and that's what
Hmm.
happens when you're aligned to
Hmm.
your mission. You're aligning to your mission. So
Yeah,
yeah, so you've been running that for quite a while now.
yeah. I've
Mm,
been running that quite a while. And I try to post, something once a month. Sometimes a couple
mm,
months go by, but that's that's my goal, is to post something once a
yeah,
month. Sometimes I'll
yeah,
just get this niggle like, okay, you need to write about that.
yeah. Yeah,
So
that's it. That's how the universe works.
yeah.
So
Yeah. And
then,
but
go on,
yeah, it's this
you
thing.
go.
And you're probably going to talk about that. The whole time I was getting like breadcrumbs from my guides, leading me to these different places. And 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 I thought, well, I'd like to be able to offer something to the collective, and and then I learned about Rahani, celestial healing, and I said, wow, that sounds exactly like the perfect thing that I would love to be able to learn about and
Yeah.
offer. And so
We'll just give credit to Carol Stacey. So Carol
yeah.
Stacey is the founder, and
Mm-hmm.
I was very blessed to be trained by her. And so I feel like it's really important to honor her. And it's
Definitely.
a beautiful, beautiful healing modality. And I quite often mention about Rahani because it means of one heart. And a few of you actually on the membership have trained in it now. But what was your experience of it, Lansing?
Mm. It was
Mm,
it was like a coming home for me. It was like all the little pieces of guidance that I was getting in those 2 years, you know, um, all culminated in this Rouhani healing. And so when I started learning about it, it was like, this is something I was always meant to do, because it spoke to me so deeply, because it's a fifth dimensional healing modality, and
yeah,
it's like healing from source energy, which is exactly what I was doing, not even really realizing what it was. I didn't have a name for it, but
yeah,
it's this
yeah,
that's what it is. It's like you're taking the healing energies from source, you know um, and bringing it into your body and eliminating any like blocks or negativity or anything that's holding you back, you know so that you can open your heart, you know
yeah,
and so it's a very beautiful healing practice. And it's interesting because I I I would have been attuned by you, Susan, but I couldn't cross the pond.
I know, I know,
But
I know.
so I had to find somebody in close by, and I found a wonderful lady in California.
Yeah,
And then right after I was attuned, I went to Mount Shasta, and
yeah.
then it was like, wow, and I was like,
That's where it really integrated, didn't it?
yeah, it
Mm,
really integrated because I mean, it's like there was Kuan Yin, there was Mother Mary, there was Melchizedek, and there was just all the sacred geometry that I was attuned to in Rahani. Then it
yeah,
manifested itself at Shasta, and it was the most amazing experience, and I felt so connected as well to Mount Shasta. And so I think all the breadcrumbs have been bringing me to the Rahani and to Mount Shasta. Yeah.
yeah,
And it's still
absolutely.
it's
I have a
still a
real
road of
affinity.
discovery. I'm still discovering what it's all about, but it's pretty powerful.
And then what happened was, you decided to, because you were attuned, you're a practitioner, you're qualified, you decided to help others. And so you have a practice where you help others and help others to heal, because we know that we're not the healer. So you know that you're
That's
the,
right.
the channel for
The
those
channel.
that the
Hmm.
channel that those that feel attracted to you are ready to heal themselves on whatever level that might be. And you have a website. What's your website?
Celestialhealinghearts.com.
Yeah, beautiful,
Celestialhealinghearts.com. Yeah, that's my
beautiful.
website.
And there's if you would like to experience this, Lansing has on her website a free 15-minute consultation. So you can book a consultation with her over Zoom or the phone or something. Lansing, is that right?
Definitely. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything you feel
And
comfortable with.
yeah, anything you feel comfortable with. And you can have a chat with her. You can perhaps say why you're drawn to it, but also have a chat with her and see whether this feels right to you, whether you can work together, which I think is a beautiful offering, because
Mm.
then there's no commitment for people, because going on a healing journey is one where, you know, we have to open our heart and be ready, right?
Yeah, and it
So
has to speak to
sometimes,
you. Hmm.
yeah, it's nice, exactly. And when you do, I mean, you can tell Lansing's energy already, but you know, if you're listening to this and you're like, well, I wanted to kind of talk to me a bit about what might happen, you know, in a session or so on, you can definitely talk to her about that in the 15
Hmm.
minute
Hmm.
consultation, and then go ahead. And then, Lansing, do you see people remotely like this, you know, kind of on Zoom, or how do you see people?
I see people both ways. Yeah, remotely
Yeah,
and in person. Um,
yeah.
most of my clients have been remote because
Hmm.
it just worked out that way. I've seen clients
Yeah.
based in the UK and you know
Hmm.
and actually Australia
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and all over the United States. So yeah, you know,
Yeah. So
and then
obviously,
of course,
you know,
yeah,
you can't pop over to see them and they can't pop over to see you. But
yeah,
if people were in your local area, they definitely could um, see you
yes,
physically as
definitely,
well, in person.
definitely,
Yeah,
yes, they
amazing.
could.
Great to have those
Hmm.
opportunities. And what, I mean, obviously I'm trained in Rouhani, I know how it works,
Hmm.
but if you could just tell somebody, you know, what's the difference between Rouhani and Reiki? Could you explain?
Yeah, I think they're both hands-on um, modalities. Uh,
Mm.
Reiki was created a while back, and it was, you
Third
know,
dimension, really.
yeah, it was
In the
third
third dimension,
dimension.
it was
Yeah,
created.
it was like the perfect healing for that time and period. Um,
Mm.
and it's very more based, it's more grounded, isn't it? More earth-based.
Mm.
Whereas
Mm.
the Rahani, you're using energies from source. It's more fifth
Yeah,
dimensional healing
fifth
modality.
dimensional
Yeah,
frequency.
that was
Yeah,
was which Carol and Stacy brought in specifically for this time period, this critical time
mm.
period when we're doing the
Yeah,
ascension, the awakening. This is the that type of healing that's going to help our souls awaken. Uh,
yeah,
so
absolutely. And it is celestial angelic healing, isn't it? So it
that's
is
right.
pink. She calls them the pink celestial healing angels, and they come in
Hence
on the
all
fifth
my pink.
dimension. Yeah. And Lansing is matching her website beautifully. So when you see her website, you'll see that she matches it beautifully. And we both got a pink background. Obviously, if you're listening to this on Apple and Stitcher and across all podcast platforms, you're just going to have to visualize that right now
Yeah,
because you're
that's
listening
right.
to it. But if you pop over to her website, you'll be able to see what we mean by the colours. She's
Yeah,
wearing
yeah,
beautiful purple. It's sort of almost magenta, isn't
yeah, it
it?
is.
Purple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
Beautiful. And a pink
So
background. Yeah.
yeah, the
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, the Rahani comes in on the pink ray of love,
Yeah.
hence the
Yeah.
pink.
And
Yeah,
it Rahani means of one heart, doesn't it?
that's right.
Of
Hmm.
one heart.
Of one
And
heart.
we are all of one heart. We are all one.
We're all connected. Hmm.
Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
Lansing, is there anything else that you want to share, or is there anything that you want to say to my audience that might help them?
I think it's just the word that's coming in now is just really trust. Trust the process that, or trust where you are right now. Trust what your
Mm.
body's telling you. You know, there are no coincidences. You know, just trust where you are in the journey in your life, and just really listen to what it is that is right for you. You know, connect to your heart, come into the stillness, listen, and find that time to really just listen. Ask yourself, what is it that I need today? What is it that's right for me? You know, and trust that voice, trust that inner voice.
Yeah,
It'll,
that true voice
yeah.
that we all have.
Mm-hmm.
And, even though we do this work every day of the week, we still, as soul having a human experience, still slip into the human experience. And
Right.
so we have to remind ourselves, don't we, all the time, that actually we are source energy and that this physicality is just a temporary thing
Mm-hmm.
that we've chosen to carry our soul in, this little
Right.
jacket that we wear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But take care of it.
And it's our barometer, as I always say, a barometer
Yeah.
for our souls. So, this jacket, we have to
Mm-hmm.
carry it around. And so we
Mm-hmm.
have to look after it. Yeah. And
That's
listen
right.
to it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also
Oh,
thank you so much for the opportunity. Another thing I want to say, that to come on your podcast it's been a joy
oh,
listening to you
you're so
for,
welcome. Yeah, you're
yeah.
so welcome. My the guy just saying champion. Yeah, I do champion everyone on
Yeah.
my son's family, of course, because it's my mission to help everyone align to their mission as I live my true mission. And it it warms my heart to know that anyone who is on my membership, when they're ready, they can come on the podcast and share who they are, their spiritual awakening, and how they can help the collective. And to me, that's why I created the Spiritual Awakener. It's a journey that we all go on, and we have these turning points and these seemingly adverse events that happen in our life, but actually they always point towards an incredible part of our spiritual mission.
That's right. The spiritual
So
awakening.
absolutely, spiritual awakening. So, Lansing, thank you so much for being here and sharing your story and your beautiful energy
Oh,
with everyone here on in the audience. And if you're listening to this and you feel that it's time for you to really listen to your body, then definitely go to Lansing's website. Lansing, just repeat it again for everybody.
celestialhealinghearts.com.
Yeah, celestialhealinghearts.com. And if you've got a spiritual awakening story that you would like to share with my audience, I would love to hear it. So you can contact me on susan@susankennard.co.uk or my website, susankennard.co.uk. Okay, much love for now, and see you on the next episode of The Spiritual Awakener.
Thank you. Bye.